So hey guys, so this is day 8 of solving programming problems in Geeks for Geeks, and today we're gonna solve one of the basic problems there, and it's kind of an interesting problem as well. So we are going to solve the problem of reversing array in groups. So what is this problem about, right? So reversing arrays in groups. So in this problem, we're given an array, and we are specified we're given the number of elements in the array, and we're given another value called k, right? So what are we going to do with this problem? So what are we supposed to do? So the idea is to reverse the elements in the array of groups groups of size 3. So for example, here we have k is equal to 3, right? So we're supposed to take the first k elements in the array and then reverse them, right? So first three elements in this array is 1, 2, and 3. And if we did reverse them, our output will be 2, 3, and 1. And the remaining elements, so if we had another additional variable here called 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, maybe yeah, if we had 6 here, we would take the next three variables, but we don't have 6 here, right? So we took the first three variables, first k variables, and then the next k variables, but we don't have k variables in the next group, right? So in this case, we're supposed to take only the last two elements that are present in the array. So if in this case we had just 4 in this array, we would just take 4. Now we have 4, 5, so we're supposed to take 4 and 5. But if we had 6 and another element, maybe 7, we're supposed to take 4, 5, 6, but not the 7. 7 we would take in the next group, and that would be the third group in the array, right? So this is the idea of this problem. So we are going to go through the solution, the algorithm that we're going to use to solve this problem. So the idea would be to iterate over the array initially. So for example, initially we would set the value of I equal to 0. We would do a for loop, and we would set the value of I equal to 0. And each time each time we iterate, we would set both the start and the end. So for example, during the first iteration, during I is equal to 0th iteration, we would need to identify the position of 1 and the position of the end of the array, right? In order for us to get the subgroup in the array so that we could reverse them. So the starting element of this subgroup, we can just use the value of I, because like this is the value of 0, right? But in order to find the position of the end, so start, as I said, I'm gonna just put it as yes here. I'm sorry, this is an yes. Start is equal to I, but end, which is I'm gonna denote it as E. So we need to find the value of end. So how are we going to find that? So we have an additional variable that's provided to us, which is k. So what we need to do is we need to sum up I and k. So in this case, if we added up I and k, we would get the value as 3, right? And the position of index 3 in this array is 4, but we need 3. So what we are going to do is that we are going to do I plus k and then another subtraction in order to get the actual position. So we're going to do this, and we're going to find the value of the end element. So this is how we are going to find the start position and the end position in the array. And then once we find those two values, we are going to sort this array. So how are we going to sort the individual sub arrays, right? So this is fairly straightforward. We're just going to do a simple swap. So we have the start at 1 and the end at 3. So we are going to swap those variables at 3 and 1. And then once we do the swap, we are going to increment the value of S to the next position. And then we are going to increment the value of E at the end of the next, we're going to decrement the value of E. And then since they're equal, we don't need to do anything. So this is how we are going to reverse each and individual subarrays in the group. So we are going to have two iterations. One is the overlapping iteration that we do to find each subarrays, and the next iteration is so that we can swap each element in the subarray. So this is the algorithm that we're going to use to solve this problem. Yes, and one more additional thing that I wanted to mention is that when we are trying to find the value of end, in this case, if we did take 3 and 4, right? So if we had So we have the next iteration as 3 and the next element as 4. So in order to find the next subgroup, initially we had I is equal to 0. So what we need to do is that we need to increment I. So how we are going to increment I is that we need to set I is equal to I plus the value of k. So during the first iteration, we had I is 0. So during the second iteration, what we're going to do is we are going to add the value of k to I. So we iterated through all these things, right? And during the next iteration, we would add k to 0 and it would become 3. So our start would turn to be 4. But in order to find the ending element of the subgroup, if we did the logic that I told you guys earlier, we would get an incorrect value because I plus k, in this case 3 plus 3 is 6 and 6 minus 1 is 5, but we don't have a fifth element in this array. So what we need to do in this case is that we need to find the minimum of n minus 1 and I plus k minus 1. So this is what we need to do. So in this case, n minus 1 is 5 minus 1 is 4, and I plus 1 minus I plus k minus 1 in this case would be 5. So we would just take 4 as the minimum value as the ending value. So we would be able to find the correct value in this case. So that's why we're using min to find out the minimum between n minus 1 and I plus k minus 1. So that's the logic that we're going to use to solve this problem. So now I'm going to solve this problem in Java. So we have the array that we're supposed to reverse. We have the number of elements in the array and we have the number of groups that we need to take in order to reverse this array. So as we talked to during the algorithm explanation time, we are going to initially do a for loop, and we're going to have an index variable I, and I is supposed to be less than the total array length, and we are going to increment I by the value of k so that we take each subgroup within the array. Now we're supposed to have both the start and the end variables for us to be able to reverse the subarrays, right? So we are going to declare a start variable, and start, as I told you, will always be equal to I, and int, we're going to declare another int variable end. So end, this is where we need to make use of the min function to find the minimum value of either n minus 1 or long minus 1 or I plus k minus 1. So this is what we need to find to figure out the end position of the subarrays. So next we need to do a swap of the values between start and end. So for that we are going to use a while loop, and we are going to set the condition while start is less than or equal to end. So I'm going to to do the swap, I'm going to set a temporary variable which will hold the value of start, and I am going, since we are already holding the value of start, I'm going to set the value of start to the value of get, to the value of end, right? And once we do that, we need to set the value of end. So I'm gonna set the value of end to the temporary that we get from the start. And one other important thing that we have to remember here is that we need to increment the value of start and we need to decrement the value of end so that we go to the next elements to swap as well. So we don't go into an infinite loop. So that is pretty much it. We don't need to return anything because how the compiler works here is that it'll take the array and it'll check if the array is actually reversed. So I'm going to compile this. Yep. I'm gonna submit this one, so I've already submitted a couple of times, so it might show up that I've already submitted it, but hopefully it passes all test. Yep. So we have passed all test cases. So that is it for this problem. And if you have any questions, comment down in the video and I'll let you know. So see you again tomorrow for the next problem.